Open for a big boisterous group or a small intimate group, so I got my wish today. I'm easy to please. My name is Lee Koslow. I'm the Technical Assistance and Training Manager for Rochester Works. How many of you have heard of Rochester Works? Excellent. I was hoping for 100%. I don't even have to explain who we are. I'm going to do a few of these hands-up questions, but if it's a small group, if you want to interrupt with any questions as we go, we'll entertain them. And if we start to get behind, then we'll cut them off and start going again. But I want to make this open to questions for you. First survey. How many of you lived through the Great Recession of 2008 to 2009? I'm glad everybody's hand's up, because if your hand's not up, that means you're either a really big 5-year-old or you've stopped breathing. We're talking a little bit about the recession, but it's not really the point. The point is how have we recovered, and what does that mean for you, and what are some tips that you can use to make things work for you. Another survey, though. When we talk about the Great Recession, we're, for the most part, in most of our charts and tables that I'm going to show you today, we're using 2007 as the base year for how life was before the recession. So the question I have for you is, how many of you, and this is just a perception question, there is no right or wrong answer, how many of you think that the economy is better now than it was in 2007? Okay, we got one. How many of you think that the economy is worse now than it was in 2007? 2. And then how many think it's about the same, or you're just not sure? All right. So we're somewhat evenly split on the question, and that's probably the right way to perceive it, because it seems like for years now we've been taking 2 steps forward and then 1 step back, and so on and so forth. Now, what are we going to cover today? I'm going to show some charts and graphs, but I don't want you to get caught up if you're not a numbers person. The reason that I'm showing these numbers is because they just provide evidence of these 10 trends that if you get to know them, and better than getting to know what the trends are, if you become familiar with these 6 key opportunities that arise out of the trends from knowing them, you're going to be able to put yourself at a competitive advantage in the job market, which is what we want for you if you're looking for a job or for a better job. One of the things I've given you, because this PowerPoint, as well as the video for this presentation, and the ones that you missed today, because hopefully you won't sit through 3 presentations. Hopefully you'll go out there and talk to the businesses, because there's lots of them there. It's more active out there than I saw it last time I came to one of these, which I think was 3 years ago. And so that's a testament to some improvement in the economy too. But you'll be able to catch the recording, you'll be able to catch the PowerPoint on our website at www.rochesterworks.org. So I was asked not to bring copies of the PowerPoint. I did want you to be able to take notes if you want to and have some information to bring with you. So on these brochures that are scattered around, if you open it all the way up, what I did for you is I modified this just for all of you. On the inside here, there are places to write notes down. Particularly, we're going to discuss 6 different opportunities as a result of what's going on with the economy and the job market. I want you to be able to figure out which one of these opportunities, opportunity number 2, number 3, number 6, makes sense for you, and be able to write down what you want to do to take action on it, and so that you can take this with you and have something that benefits you out of this workshop. Let's get into our first trend. How has the economy fared since the end of the Great Recession? It technically ended sometime in 2009, and what we've got here is gross domestic product, whole United States. What we're looking at is what's the economy producing, and has it improved, has it recovered? And so there's a horizontal line there. That's where the GDP was before the Great Recession at its peak. And you'll notice where we recovered sometime in 2011, and it's kept going up ever since. So from a standpoint of what the nation is producing, the economy's recovered and it's been doing quite well. In fact, what we're looking at today, we're going to look at some negative, and if you listen to the news, you'll hear negative or positive depending on which political point the person's trying to make. But overall, if anyone tells you 2014 was a good year for the economy and the job market, it really was a solid, good year, the best one we've seen since the onset of the Great Recession. But that doesn't mean it's 100% good for everybody. The unemployment rate, you would expect it to come down to where it was because since 2011 the economy's recovered. In 2007, the unemployment rate was somewhere shy of 4.5%. So we'd expect it to get down there. It hasn't yet. Will it? When will it? We don't know for sure. You'll notice, though, that that orange line, it is slowly coming down. So the unemployment rate is coming down. That's a positive. It's just not as positive as we would have wanted it to be. Now, those were figures for the U.S. economy. Let's talk about the Rochester metro area. And for a lot of these data, we're going to be talking the Rochester plus 4 of the counties that touch Rochester, not including Genesee County, which is its own statistical area. And so our unemployment rate in 2007 was 4.6%. Now the average unemployment rate in the worst year that we've had was 8.2%, and it's come down a little bit more than halfway. The average for 2014, January through November, 6.0%. So it's getting better again. Not where we want it, but it's getting better. Does that mean that there are more people employed? Unfortunately, it doesn't yet. And what you'd expect is as the unemployment rate goes up, the number of people employed goes down. As the unemployment rate goes back down, the number of people employed should go back up. So sure enough, from 2007 to 2010, the number of people employed in the Rochester metro area went down by nearly 20,000. So you'd expect, with the unemployment rate going back down to 6.0%, you'd expect to recover maybe about 10,000 of those jobs, maybe a little bit more, 12,000. Instead, we lost nearly 3,000 jobs. Now, some will say that the unemployment is going down because people are going back to work, which is partially true. Some will say that the unemployment rate is going down because people are dropping out of the labor market, which is also partially true, especially in Rochester. It is a mixed picture. It's not just that people are leaving the labor market. People are getting jobs as well, but a lot of people are leaving the labor market. Now, there's a reason for that, which brings us to our third trend. People in the Rochester area are getting older. In fact, more of them than in some other parts of the country. And so for these data, we're using Monroe County, and we're using our 2008 as our benchmark year. And so between 2008 and 2013, that 5-year period, more than 11,000 people turned 65. Now, they didn't all automatically just decide to retire at 65, but many of them did. And that's part of the reason for the shrinking labor force. That's not a bad thing if somebody retired because they wanted to. Now, who's replacing them? You've got your young teenagers in 2008 who became adults by 2013. Now, not all of them are going to want to get into the labor force. Some of them decided to go right from high school into college. But the replacement number there isn't as much as the number that we lost from those turning 65. So what impact has that had on the labor force? And what about those folks between 18 and 64 who have dropped out of the labor force? Well, there are those folks. You'll notice here that our labor force numbers have shrunk by more than 8,000 in that 5-year period. Now, if you are unemployed, you may see that as a good thing, and it is for you in the short term, because what that means is there are 8,000 fewer people competing with you for those jobs that you want. But in the long term, let's say you're working, don't you want to have competent coworkers by your side? So in the long term, the shrinking labor force may not be such a good thing for you, and it's really not a good thing for businesses. If this doesn't already have businesses in the Rochester region worried, it will very soon. What it means is they need you more than you realize. You might feel when you're sitting at that table with an interviewer that the balance of power is heavily tipped in favor of the interviewer. They don't see it that way. So this could be an advantage for you going forward, the fact that the labor force has shrunk, especially if you want to stay in it. I'm doing my time check now. I want to see where I'm at for time. I'm doing perfect for time. One more trend before we get into some opportunities. Some folks who have dropped out of the labor force haven't done so because they've retired or because they've become disabled or for whatever reason. There are some folks who've dropped out of the labor force because they believe that there is no job out there for them. And we call them discouraged workers. It's a little bit different from the folks who are actively searching for work. Like if you're not working, you probably are. You might feel discouraged. In fact, just a survey, and if you don't feel comfortable answering this, this is fine, but how many of you do feel a little bit discouraged about your job search? And you're in good company. You're in good company if you feel discouraged. But look at these numbers here of folks that have dropped out due to discouragement. Kind of a normal number was that 369,000 before the recession. Look how high it got in the worst year right after the recession. Over 1 million discouraged workers. And you'd expect that the number would have come down because unemployment has dropped and the economy is getting better. Things are looking better. But we're still close to 750,000 discouraged workers who are still out of the labor force in 2014. That's a high number. And I'm going to tell you that these discouraged folks, their perception is based on past information, not on their future opportunities. What we've considered here about the labor market, about the economy, production's gone way up, unemployment's coming down. There are folks that are dropping out of the workforce, making the competition less stiff. These folks shouldn't be as discouraged as they are. It's really better than it looks. So that brings us to our first opportunity. I'm seeing faces of experienced workers out in the crowd. I don't believe that anyone here is a millennial, which the next slide may not apply to anybody. This slide will apply to you. Employers need you in the workforce, especially here in the Rochester area. Not only is the labor force shrinking, so the pool of available workers has tightened up for these businesses, but also the folks that are coming in, the new workers, they don't have the experience. They don't have the skills. They haven't developed the work habits, the work ethic that you have. Businesses need you because you're going to be a lot more productive than the newer workers. The third thing is, who's going to train millennials coming into the workforce? Businesses need you to be there to train them. And so if you have gotten discouraged and if you slow down in your job searching activity, the opportunity here is the economy has gotten better since when you lost your job. Things are only getting better at this point. Businesses do need you. When you're sitting across the table from that interviewer, you have more power than you think. So I encourage you to really go in with a positive attitude. If you're not finding anything, it's not you. It may be a shift in the labor market. So it may mean that you need to rethink your role. It may be that you just need some help with your job searching strategies, but it isn't you. Now this next opportunity, this may not be for anyone in the room, but if you know any millennials, generally born between 1982 and 2004, if you know any millennials, Employers are looking to see what's my future workforce going to look like. My workforce is really graying right now. How do I get some of these younger people in and get them trained now before I lose my experienced workers who can be there to train them? And so millennials are being highly desired, and businesses are struggling with how do we relate to these folks and how do we make our jobs appealing to them. It's an opportunity for them. Fifth trend. When we talk about the long-term unemployed, this is nationwide. This is nationwide. When we talk about the long-term unemployed, these are folks who have been out of work for 6 months or more. Show of hands, if you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to raise your hand, but is there anyone in here who's been out of work for 6 months or more? Okay, so you would qualify as the long-term unemployed. That's frustrating. That can really get you down, but you're in good company. Long-term unemployment was relatively low before the recession at just over 1,000. It peaked on average in 2010. I'm sorry, just over 1 million. These are in thousands. At just over 1 million nationwide. It peaked at just over 6 million average in 2010. And the good news is the numbers of long-term unemployed are steadily coming down. That's the good news. So that means that folks that have been out of work for a long time, many of them are getting back into the workforce. Just like with the general unemployment rate, though, it hasn't dropped as far as we'd like that quickly because we still have more than 3 million long-term unemployed out there. Now, trend number 6. We've got these numbers of employment rising in the U.S., not in Rochester. We've got unemployment dropping all over the place. But some of the folks that we're counting as employed, lots of the folks that we're counting as employed, are not employed full-time, and they want to be. And so one of the measures that the U.S. Department of Labor takes, and this is U.S., nationwide, the number of people who are working part-time but want to be working full-time. Is there anyone here in this room that fits in that category? I thought we'd find a few. First, good for you, because you're doing the right thing by staying in the workforce, by getting into the back into the workforce, even if it's not your ideal circumstances. It's going to benefit you as you look for a full-time job. The number of part-timers who wanted full-time work before the recession, about 4.5 million. It spiked at close to 9 million. Look how slowly it's come down. It is coming down, but very, very slowly. We're still at over 7 million. Now, there's an opportunity associated with these two trends, long-term unemployed, underemployed. And that opportunity is on this brochure that I snuck in front of you, where you might be taking some notes down. Rochester Works was just awarded, as the lead agency in our 9-county Finger Lakes region, a $5.2 million 4-year grant called Finger Lakes Hired. That's the name of our initiative locally. And you may not have heard of Finger Lakes Hired because we haven't gone out with a big press release yet. We've got our new logo, and if you fall into one of those groups, if you raised your hand and said, I'm long-term unemployed, I'm working part-time, but want to be working full-time, and if you're interested in working with one of our 3 industries that we've identified, advanced manufacturing, information technology, or healthcare, you probably qualify for services under the Finger Lakes Hired initiative. And what I would encourage you to do, if you're interested, reach out to our project manager. Her information is inside the brochure. Annette DePalma. She's walking around here today as well. Reach out to her. Send her an email. Give her a call. Let her know you're interested. How will this be different? Because maybe you've been into Rochester Works, maybe a Rochester Works staff, a Department of Labor staff member helped you some, but you're still here. So obviously you didn't get enough help. Finger Lakes Hired has some more resources. You may have found in the past where if you want somebody one-on-one to keep coming back to and do some more intensive job search counseling, we just didn't have the resources because we had so many people coming through our doors. Well, under the Finger Lakes Hired initiative, we have some dedicated counselors that'll be able to work with you more intensively. And we also have lots of training dollars, and we have some employer commitments where we're developing relationships, where we have options to do on-the-job training grant, which is an incentive to a business to hire you. Some of your wages get reimbursed. We have some options to do work experience tryouts, where if a business just isn't sure whether they want to take you on with this on-the-job training or with this direct hire, they can try you out for 2 weeks, maybe a little bit longer. You're getting paid. The business doesn't have you on their payroll, a staffing agency does, so it's an incentive for them to try you out, mitigates their risk, and in most cases we expect that you would get hired right out of that relationship. Yes, and I'm looking, is it Nancy? Okay, my eyes aren't that good, I guess. Are they putting more counselors on under the grant to help all of you? If you are part of this initiative as a job seeker participant, yes, you will have a dedicated counselor. We've got 2 that will be starting, one this month, one next month in Monroe County. We've got 1 counselor that's already started and will be moving out in beginning of February in the Genesee, Livingston, Orleans, Wyoming County area. And we've got 1 that's going to be moving out on Tuesday to the Finger Lakes region, Ontario, Wayne, Yates, Seneca counties. And so, yes, you will get that dedicated assistance. And over 4 years, we expect to serve 1,500 of the long-term unemployed or long-term underemployed as part of this initiative. So good opportunity. You've got Annette's phone number up there in here. And by the way, I was part of the interviewing committee, the hiring committee that hired the project manager for this initiative. After we interviewed Annette, I was worried that she wouldn't accept the job. Anybody that is interviewing you for a job may have the same worry. The balance of power is a little bit more even than it might seem to be when it comes to employer versus job seeker. Trend number 7. A lot of industries have recovered, but it hasn't been even across industries. So you see unemployment going down, you see more people getting hired, you see the production going way up. Not every industry has benefited equally. And so knowing which industries are kind of the hot industries, and we're looking at the Rochester Metro now, and which ones are the ones that have been declining can help you. It doesn't mean that if you're not in one of these top industries in terms of job gains that you need to get into one of them. And it doesn't necessarily mean that if you're in one of the other industries that's been shrinking, you need to get out or stay away from it. But it's just one factor to consider that'll help you when it comes to deciding when we get to our next opportunity. So the good ones, the ones that have really been growing in the Rochester Metro, education and health services, professional and business services, which includes a lot of your computer IT services, leisure and hospitality. That one surprised me. I didn't realize it had grown so much. Now, the ones that have lost jobs at the greatest rate, the bottom 3, manufacturing at a rate of 14,000 jobs. Now, a lot of that is your big manufacturing companies or your auto manufacturers, parts manufacturers locally. You've seen what's happened to Kodak. Now, when we say manufacturing, there's kind of a dual trend going on here. Traditional manufacturing has declined at a rate greater than this minus 14,000 that you see. That's your assembly line, mostly lower skilled manufacturing. Advanced manufacturing, manufacturing that uses newer technologies, has actually been increasing in the midst of this. If it hadn't been for advanced manufacturing, that minus 14,000 might be more like a minus 20,000 at this point. So there are opportunities in manufacturing. The thing with that is advanced manufacturing is heavier on the technology side, lighter on the labor side. But those folks that they do hire, they need because they need them to get and have certain skills. So there are opportunities in manufacturing. Trade, transportation, and utilities has come down some. That includes your retailers, your wholesalers, your transportation companies, distributors. Information, which doesn't really include IT, but includes more your publishing, your news media, or your media in general, your communications outlets, web services. That's number 3 that's come down. We've talked about industries. When we talk industries, we're talking about how a business classifies itself in terms of its chief product or service. When we talk occupation, we're talking about how you classify yourself in terms of your role at the company. So there are some occupations that span across industries. For example, you can be a secretary or an accountant in any industry. So the occupation is your role. And some occupations are growing faster than others. Now, that doesn't mean that you should switch occupations to one of these fast-growing occupations if you're not in one. It might mean that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. And it doesn't mean that there isn't a job for you if you're in one of the declining occupations. What I've done here is I've divided them up by job families. A job family is a group of similar occupations. The government has divided up all of the occupations that are out there into 23 job families. Here are the top 5 in the Rochester metro area. And I'm not necessarily going by the ones that are fastest growing. You'll see folks publish fastest growing jobs. I could have an occupation that's got 2 jobs in 2010, and in 2020 it's got 4 openings, and I could tell you that we've had 100% growth. That's amazing. Well, it's still only 4 openings versus maybe 1,000 in another occupation that might even be declining. Some of the openings are due to growth, some of them are due to replacement because people are getting older, retiring, switching careers. And so we've done them by number of openings per year in Finger Lakes region. And these projections are 2010, 2020 for our 9-county region surrounding Monroe County. So you've got office jobs is tops, followed by sales and related, food prep and serving related. Those are really high. Education, training, and library makes a strong showing. Healthcare practitioners and technical. And that would even be higher if you add healthcare support, which isn't included in that category. Now, some of these jobs, like office and administrative, or food prep and serving related especially, are lower paying. But they're not all lower paying jobs. Now, the bottom 5. Legal occupations. This is a relatively small group, so there still is significant demand for lawyers and for paralegals or legal assistants. But as a whole, this is the one that has the smallest number of openings. Life, physical, and social science, small number, but these smaller job families that take the higher skill levels, there are fewer PhDs competing for some of these jobs, and so there are still some openings. Architecture and engineering, that's the one that is probably surprising because we keep hearing STEM jobs, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. In the Rochester region, engineering jobs have not really been growing. They have in other parts of the country. I think that is on the brink of changing. These numbers here, 2010 to 2020 projections, are already old. This year, at some point this year, we should get our 2012-2022 projections for the Finger Lakes region. I think that architecture and engineering will come up some and will drop off of the bottom 5 list. Protective service rounds it out. So, one more trend before we get to our next opportunity. Don't worry about understanding this chart. What I wanted to show you on here is that there are 2 lines. There's a bottom line. And what that line is telling us, that since the end of 2000, when we started measuring the rate of job openings, for about 8.5 years afterwards, till the end of the Great Recession, till the recovery started, if you knew the rate of job openings, how many job openings businesses had, then you could connect that with a specific unemployment rate, and it was pretty even. So as the numbers of job openings went up, the unemployment rate would go down, and vice versa. That all changed during the recovery and hasn't changed back since. So there you've got that purple line that is shifted up. And what that purple line is telling us is that as the number of job openings rose, the unemployment rate didn't go down to where it should have under the old model. And so we've got a couple of lines there looking at November 2014, where the number of job openings was, which it's great that they're really high. That shows some potential there. But if you bring that over and down, rather than close to 6%, the unemployment rate under the old model should have been about 4.2, 4.3% in November. Why is that? One of the reasons is what businesses and economists are calling the skills gap. One of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons is employers are having a hard time finding people with the skills that they want to fill the job. And on top of that, a lot of these businesses are your small and medium-sized businesses where a lot of the growth is occurring. They don't have the resources to train the numbers of new workers that they would like to train. You know, Rochester Works is working with the Finger Lakes Hired Initiative and a number of other partnerships to help give businesses more resources so that they can train you and hire you, or hire you and train you at the same time. But you know, there's a lot of work to be done there. You heard a lot of the talk, especially during the Great Recession, about the 1%ers. Well, that's a little bit limiting in the eyes of this consultant here, Josh Burson. He believes that the wealth isn't really limited to 1%. It's actually double that. There's 2% of the population that benefited from 80% of the economic recovery. But they said that that wasn't because of your class or your standing or anything having to do with you, other than it's the ones with the highest skills, he says, have really benefited the most from the recovery. So that's one expert's opinion. Now, MCC did a survey back in 2013, a needs assessment and business climate assessment in comparison with the Center for Governmental Research. And they wanted to take a look at this skills gap, and they wanted to take a look at how many positions are persistently unfilled, you know, jobs that employers have that just aren't getting filled because they can't find the person they want to hire. And their estimate, and they admitted it was a rough estimate, but their estimate was it was about 5% of all the positions that are out there, or 23,000 jobs in our area that were unfilled. And they did conclude that the skills gap was a contributing factor. So that brings us to opportunity number 4. When we think about which industries are performing better, when we think about which occupations are projected to have more openings, when we think about the fact that if you're worried about not having the right skills, you're going to, as an experienced worker, have the highest level of skills in an occupation that you've already worked in and in an industry that you've already worked in. That brings us to the need. And like I said, if you're not working, and if you haven't been working for a while, if you have been having trouble getting full-time work, it's not you. It may be that you need some help finding your new place in the job market. You know, somebody may have moved your chair, so to speak, and you need to find where they put it. Now, has anyone here had the opportunity to take the 5 Steps to Rapid Employment program or session? What that is, that's a 5-day intensive job search workshop given by Rochester Works, and it's gotten rave reviews. Annette De Palma, the project manager for Finger Lakes that we'd hired, she went through it when she was looking for work, and even though she had years and years of experience in the staffing and recruitment industry, she said that she really benefited from it and put into practice what she learned. And now, as the project manager for Finger Lakes Hired, in this initiative, anybody that goes through this will have the option to do either the 5 Steps to Rapid Employment or the Career Navigator, which is a similar program. Now, I bring that up because if you had gone through that, you would have seen this and you would have said that I stole that from them, which I did. Now, there's 4 choices when it comes to what job you're going to do. You can, up in the upper right, stay in your same occupation and industry. You can change occupations, but stay in the same industry, up on the upper left. Or you could stay in the same occupation but change industries, or you could change both. You see those orange arrows, higher pay? Because you already have the skills and experience in your industry and occupation, if you stay in the same occupation or stay in the same industry, your pay goes up, your value in the job market goes up. If you do both, well, then it goes up times 2. Not that it's going to go up more than what it was before, but it's going to go way up compared to changing occupations and industries where you might be starting at the bottom. We had a careers panel a few years ago where we had a couple of manufacturers, a couple of educators sit down and answer questions about getting into advanced manufacturing. In fact, that and a few other careers panel, like our information technology careers panel, were recorded, and they're up on the YouTube channel that Rochester Works has. You can find them there. You might need to click on more videos and look for those careers panels. There's 4 parts each. And one of the good things about that is you had businesses being very candid about their hiring practices. And somebody asked the question, I've got years and years of experience in traditional manufacturing. You said that you hire new people in your advanced manufacturing shop doing CNC machining at $12 an hour. Will you take my experience into account and hire me on at more than $12 an hour? What do you think the answer was? The answer was, frankly, no, but we do reviews with the possibility of a raise every 6 months, which is faster than a lot of industries. And based on your experience, you are probably going to perform quite well and get those raises quite often and fairly quickly get closer to that average of $20 an hour, which is the average for what an experienced CNC machinist was making at the time and may still be making right now. And so, you know, there was the benefit to that, but the change starts you off lower. And so, you know, when it comes to finding your place in the labor market, don't make a snap decision on, oh, my industry or my occupation's on the bad list, I'm going to change. There may still be a place for you, which is where you might need to get some advice, you might need to get some help. Help from counselors like the ones through the Finger Lakes Hired Initiative will help you. But let's say you don't want to get into one of those 3 industries that we're targeting or focusing on, or maybe you're not eligible because you're not long-term unemployed or underemployed. The Rochester Works Career Center could still help you. Anybody here live in a county outside of Monroe? What county do you live in? Wayne County? There's a career center in Lyons where you could get similar assistance. And if you do Finger Lakes Hired, you can get assistance from Jeff Wise, who is here today. He's the education and employment specialist. The counselor is working out in the Finger Lakes counties. Now, a couple more trends. One last trend before we get into our last opportunity, and I need to do my time check because I was supposed to do that on the last slide, and I've got 20 minutes left, so we're doing just fine. Trend number 10, last trend. When it comes to building your skills, it's easier and less expensive to do than it ever was before. A lot of people don't realize that, haven't gotten used to that yet, and so haven't taken advantage of it. But if you haven't, this is maybe the one thing that applies to everybody. Everybody should be doing this. So you know what professional associations are. Is anyone here a member, or have you been a member of a professional association? Good. That's a good step. I am myself as well, because I recognize the value of what I get from the workforce association that I'm a member of. Social learning, that's kind of a new term. I've heard other people use it, so I didn't quite make it up. What is social learning? Let's say you want to learn how to do something, maybe job related or not. It was actually my son, who's 16 now, taught me this. You can find on YouTube a video that teaches you anything or shows you how to do just about anything. It's how I was able to manage to get the hood of my car open when the latch got stuck, by watching a YouTube video. But you know, there's a lot of work-related how-to or knowledge videos on YouTube. You just have to be able to search and find them. That's one form of social learning. LinkedIn. How many of you are on LinkedIn? If you're not, if you are, good for you. Make sure you're active if you're looking for a job, and keep your LinkedIn account up to date. Otherwise, if you're not, you may want to look into it. There are workshops. at our Waring Road Career Center, there's a good Linked Up with LinkedIn workshop. There are guest speakers who do LinkedIn workshops every so often at our Goodman Street Career Center, so you can get help getting on. It's a good networking tool, but it's also a good social learning tool, because with LinkedIn, if you're on LinkedIn, how many of you are a member of LinkedIn groups? I recommend, and you know, I've heard folks say get into at least 50 of these, and that's a lot. But there may be some key groups, and what they'll do is they'll share knowledge. You have a chance to read articles that other people post and comment on and get their take on it. You can ask them questions. You can share and add your input and get feedback on it. I've learned quite a bit on a couple of key LinkedIn groups that I'm a member of, and it's really, really helped me. Beyond LinkedIn groups, there are blogs. A lot of people are just writing to write. They don't get paid for it. I periodically do a blog post when I have time related to the labor market or to job searching, and I've learned a lot from reading other people's blogs. And you can even, it's interactive. You can comment on the blogs as well. So that's what we mean by social learning. MOOCs. Who knows what a MOOC is? That's what I got last time I asked this. It stands for Massive Open Online Courseware. I may have gotten the two O's reversed, but that's what it stands for. Massive, because it's actually a course, and you might have 10,000 people enrolled in this course or more. I've been on some of these. Open, because if you're not getting a verified certificate, most of these courses are free. Online, because you can do it all on your computer, and some of it's pretty interactive. I've taken a couple of these where we had to do assignments and other students gave us feedback on it, where we actually got access to memory software that tested us as part of the online coursework. And it was all free because I didn't need to get the verified certificate. You can get a verified certificate to prove to a business that you have these skills by paying a small fee. And courseware, because it's a course, and so it's not going to be the same as getting a college degree, as getting an industry recognized like a CompTIA A+ certificate. But if you go on a job interview and you've now got the knowledge that you got at this course, and you can speak about it, and you can show a business how proactive you've been in staying on top of the trends in your industry and occupation, because they are changing in every industry and occupation, that's going to help you. It's going to help you to do your job better. Community education. That might be your local school district or BOCES, or one of the adjoining towns' school districts or BOCES. Anybody get these mailings from BOCES too, from Greece Community Education, from any of the other school districts with courses that you can take? How to fix your furnace, how to be a wedding photographer, you name it. There's all different ones. You might not live in an area where you get this, but some of the school districts and BOCES have these courses, and they're short. They might be a couple of sessions or a week long. They're usually $100, $200 or less, and it's an inexpensive way to build a skill if it's relevant to what you're doing, particularly if you're looking at building some of your computer skills, if you're going to have to be working on a computer. So, these are, that's the trend. And it kind of goes along with the opportunity. The opportunity is use these to build your skills. Use those four means of cheap learning and skill building. And this is the thing where if you're having trouble in your current occupation or your current industry, you're having trouble getting rehired, maybe you've been out of the workforce for a while, what it may be is the thing you need is to just maybe fill some skill gaps, or be able to get some knowledge and talk in a way or share an experience of learning that you've had that shows a business that you're on top of things, that you are current. One last opportunity. This isn't connected with any trends. It kind of is. I didn't put the trend up there because I don't have any solid numbers on it. More and more people are working as contract workers now. Now, there are two sides to the contract business. There's the higher skill side and the lower skill side. The lower skill side is more your contingent temp workers. The balance of power is leaning pretty heavily against them. Not as much as it used to, because a lot of them can do work online from home now, and so it's worked out for them. But where this becomes a good business is if you have some skills, particularly if you've had some trouble figuring out what business is going to hire you full-time to do this. You might want to consider contract or freelance work because there are more and more people doing it. More and more can do it using technology on their computer. This is a quote here from Daniel Pink. Has anyone ever heard of Daniel Pink or seen or heard of the book Free Agent Nation? It's fairly old. I think it was 2001 that it was published. And so the website workforce.com interviewed him recently. I think it was 2013, maybe 2012. And I posted the link up there. It'll be up on the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation, once it gets posted on the Rochester Works website. But this is a quote from the interview. And he's saying, yes, this is still a trend, and it works well for certain people who've kind of been pushed out of the workforce. Something you might want to consider, in fact, there's going to be a workshop in this room at 11:30. Lori Farley is going to be giving it on what the environment is for temp work and contract work. Now, she's not probably going to touch on the type of contract work where you're your own boss and you're calling the shots, which is the better side of it. And thanks to the Affordable Care Act, you may now be able to afford the health insurance side of it if you are a freelancer, more so than you could before. It's not a given, it's not an automatic, it doesn't work for everyone, but it's something to look into. The Affordable Care Act may make it work for you. If you want I'm working for a contracting house side of it, you might get some tips from Lori's presentation. If not, though, you might actually be better off not sitting in any more workshops, but out there networking with all the businesses that are out there, which is a really excellent opportunity as well. Let me get my time check. Great, we've still got 11 minutes left, and we may be through everything, and we are. Now, I do want to take any questions that you might have, since we do have some time to take questions. Does anybody want to know anything about particular jobs, what they're looking like, particular industries, what they're looking like, suggestions on any of the opportunities that we've discussed? Yes?
Not on that subject, but going back to the thinking that's hired opportunity, how many openings are there for that?
We've got 1,500 participant slots, but that's a minimum. With that $5.2 million grant, the United States Department of Labor wants us to serve 1,500 participants over a 4-year period. If the money allows us to do so, and we've got resources that are coming from other sources as well for participants in Finger Lakes Hired, we could do more than 1,500. So it's not a limiting number.
Are you giving them up among the 3 locations that you just described?
Here's what I think, based on the numbers of long-term unemployed in the region, I'm thinking that we're probably going to have half to 2/3 of the participants coming right from Monroe County. Then we're going to have the remaining 1/3 to 1/2 divided up among the east side counties and the west side counties fairly evenly.
The reason I asked is because the Rochester market has been so lame for my particular skill set. I'm looking outside of Rochester, in the Finger Lakes region, and also Buffalo.
Okay.
So,
What industry?
satellite communications.
Satellite communications? Okay. Yeah, that's one industry that I'm not as familiar with where the businesses are located. Nobody is. Okay. But if, for example, we see some activity in Ontario County or in Batavia, or even, who knows, a company could come into the Eastman Business Park, which is one of our partners under this grant. So, there could be opportunities. And certainly, the objective of this grant is to place people in jobs within the 9-county Finger Lakes region. But if we try that and you happen to get trained and it fits within the parameters of the grant, but you get an offer outside, no one's going to tell you don't take it. We're going to say, go ahead and do what makes sense for you as the worker, because you want to do what makes the most sense for you. Yes?
What's the difference between those 2 programs, which is the Navigator and the 5
They're both the same period of time. So you've got Career Navigator versus 5 Steps. They're both intensive job search programs. What's the difference? One of the differences is that right now 5 Steps is only available in Monroe County, whereas Career Navigator is available in the Finger Lakes counties. And if you're in the Finger Lakes Hired program, we're making it available in the Glow counties, Genesee, Livingston, Orleans, Wyoming counties as well. Now, the other difference, particularly if you have a choice, if you're in Monroe County, the Career Navigator program is oriented towards someone who really wants to get out there and network in person. And it's going to help you to do that better. If you're thinking, that's not me, or I just don't think I can do that, the 5 Steps program is oriented toward helping you to treat your job search like a job campaign. And it's not as heavily focused on the in-person networking, though there is that element. And so, if you want the really heavy-duty networking, then Career Navigator might be the better choice. If you're not so inclined to get it, then 5 Steps works for everybody, even the ones who would like to do some networking. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about the career readiness training?
The career readiness training, is that the classroom training that we talked about on the brochure? Let me.
Excuse me, testing, career readiness.
Oh, career readiness testing. Yes.
I've been into the Rochester Works office agreement, and I've seen things about that.
Yes.
How relevant is that to technology work? Is that something that someone like my position should be looking for?
I think everybody should do it because it's one thing, extra thing that you can do to market yourself. Now, what work keys testing is, and a lot of people shy away from it because it means sitting down in a computer lab for 3 hours and clicking a mouse to answer questions for a test. People.
I've already done that through the work assessment and the personal assessments that they make you do on half the jobs you apply for online anyway. So
Yes.
it's not even an issue.
You've done their assessment. Okay, so you don't mind doing it, and some folks do, and just to make you feel better about it. If you're one of those folks that thinks I don't like to test, I don't do as well with tests. The questions on this test are not academic focused; they're work context focused. People that have been in the workforce tend to do better than they think they would do on this. The work keys, it's a 3-part foundational skills test that has value to businesses. It's portable and it's nationally recognized, and it's for any industry. It tests 3 areas: reading for information, so not just reading for information, applied mathematics, not just math, but applied mathematics, and locating information, like looking up information on charts and tables and graphs. And these are foundational skills. So you're probably going to come out of this with what we call the career readiness credential, and it's going to be at either the bronze, silver, or gold level. And businesses recognize that because what it tells a business is you have the foundational skills so that you have the aptitude to learn whatever it is they have to teach you, because you're going to have to do some of your learning on the job. And so you're a good risk in terms of hiring you because you're going to be trainable. And you can market that to businesses because you'll have a certificate. It's verifiable. They can get on a website to make sure you really got the level of certificate that you say you have. ACT, they're the folks that put out the ACT test for college readiness. They're the ones who do work keys. They've done some studies and have found a correlation between good work habits and being able to keep a job with higher scores on the work keys testing. Don't know why it works, but it does correlate, and so that's another thing. And if you're on LinkedIn, you can put it on your LinkedIn profile, which I've done on mine. I went and I took the remedial Key Train online learning to try and do a little bit better. I didn't get the platinum that I wanted to get. I'm only at the gold level, but I am advertising that on my LinkedIn profile to set an example and to show everyone I've gone through this. I think you should too. I think it's valuable. So that's the work keys. Thank you. That was a good question.
Is that something that you project to start showing up as a job requirement on job descriptions and job postings? Because I haven't seen it yet.
It may at some point. It may not. We have had some businesses, and we've seen a little bit more of this in the Finger Lakes region than in Monroe County of late, but have had some businesses that have come in and said, we want to recruit with you, but we want you to work keys test everybody. And we want to know their scores. We want you to refer us, specifically everyone who gets a silver and above on their career readiness credential, because we want to screen them in. So you may see that at some point. And in some areas, like in western Illinois, northwestern Illinois, I want to say Arizona, Nevada definitely, Las Vegas area, it's really caught on.
So it does have some national traction.
It certainly does. Unfortunately, New York State hasn't caught on to it as a state, but our 9-county Finger Lakes region has.
So it's something that could potentially be portable if you decided to relocate.
Absolutely.
If you had a job required relocation.
Absolutely. In fact, you have certain states that have designated themselves as work-ready states where they are aiming to test everybody. Georgia's one of them.
Really?
Yes.
So it's worth spending the time to do it.
Yes, because it's free for you. All you're putting in is your time. It's absolutely, it's worth it. I did it because I thought it was worth it, and I wasn't even looking for a job.
There are so many places and segments that you can spend your time in this monolithic thing we call a job search. You want to do things that are going to get ROI. You don't want to waste time doing things that aren't going to do anything for you.
Yes.
So that's why.
Working smart. Yeah, this would be 3.5 hours of your time, and it's definitely worthwhile.
Thank you.
No, thank you for asking about it and helping me do a plug for it. Any last questions? Great. I want to thank you. You've been a wonderful group today. My information is up here in case you'd like to contact me, connect with me on LinkedIn. I accept invitations from all real people who want to connect with me. I will only reject robots. And I wish you the best today. Please do get out there and talk with some of those businesses. And again, thank you.